Listen to me very carefully. There are three ways of doing things around here. The right way, the wrong way, and the way that I do it.
Welcome to the Rockstar Principles Podcast, coming straight to you from Rock and Roll, USA, covering the latest and greatest in educational leadership trends, news, and awesomeness for principals all over the world. Now, here are your hosts, the boss, John Ross, and the Doctor of Proctors, Nick Indeglio.
Well, everybody, it's been a while, but the Rockstar Principals are back with...
Who are you talking to?
It's been so long, we can't even remember who we're talking to anymore. It's craziness up in this place.
Sorry.
We've got a great show for you today, because we always do.
We've been saving it up. We've been saving up all this awesomeness that we have due to some scheduling conflicts over the last, what's it been, about
6 weeks?
6 weeks?
It's been a while.
All right. Well, it's giving everybody time to catch up on what
Yeah.
they've missed on past episodes of the Rockstar Principles podcast. So, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Here, go ahead.
No,
so what's our
it's
first
right.
segment going to be today?
I mean, the people got to understand, it's PSSA season.
It's been crazy.
We've got weddings, we got lots of stuff.
Yeah, PVAAS, roster verification.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Just crazy busy. But anyway, we're back and we're ready for another edition of Secrets of the Middle School Mafia. I don't remember what lesson we're up to at this point.
No, I don't think we were keeping track.
Nah. Well, which is good because when we edit this all together, we don't want
Yeah,
to...
it makes it easier.
Yeah, in case you forget, which you might because it's been a while, we're going to make a book out of this, an audio book. You're going to buy it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
All right, right. So what we do is we use quotes from some of our favorite Mafia movies, like The Godfather, I think, are the ones that we've been using so far. We're going to go with Casino this edition, and we kind of relate some of the lessons from the Mafia to school leadership and how it works for us. So it might sound like a bit of a stretch, but just bear with it for a minute and you'll see. We'll bring it home at the end. So.
It
Go
works,
ahead,
man.
Nick. What do we have for this one? What's the clip?
Well, we're going to, just to give you a little bit of a setup here, Robert DeNiro in Casino plays a character named Ace Rothstein, and he's sent by about 6 different mafia heads up in the northeastern area of the country to Las Vegas to basically manage a casino called the Tangiers. This is back before the, the real big, super... they're like the Walmarts of casinos now. It's before those days. And his job was to increase the profits because he was an expert handicapper. And the mob bosses back home were going to be skimming money off of the profits. That was the whole gimmick that was going to go on. So he does that. And along the way, great movie. I mean, it's definitely not suitable for anyone under the age of 18 to 21.
Yeah, right.
But along the way, he is forced to hire people due to politics and, local politicians, local government officials, and he has to hire their nephews, their nieces, their grandsons, whatever. DeNiro says early on he doesn't want to stir the pot, so he hires these people and puts them in roles that'll keep everyone happy, or at least hopefully, will keep everyone happy. He has to hire a guy named Don Ward, and he puts him in charge of the slots, so essentially he's the slots manager. And this guy's pretty stupid and doesn't really know what he's doing, and the clip we're going to share with you is... basically when DeNiro is looking over the slot machines and where they're placed and how they're running, and he observes that it's not being done very well. And essentially the quote says, Ace pulls the guy aside, pulls Don aside, and says, "Listen to me very carefully. There are 3 ways of doing things around here. The right way, the wrong way, or the way that I do it." And that's going to be the quote we're going to discuss today. So we're going to pause for a second and play you that clip from the movie.
Loose machines are right back over there. What are they doing way back there? Bring them up here where they belong. You can't even see them over there. Okay. What about the progressives with the high jackpots? Where are they? These machines are hidden. These are our best machines. They bring all the action. No wonder the drop is off. The action is in the front, not in the back. Bring them up front. All right, I will. Listen to me very carefully. There are 3 ways of doing things around here. The right way, the wrong way, and the way that I do it.
And now we're going to talk about that clip from the movie. So, John, why don't you kick it off? When you hear that, what's the first thing that jumps to mind?
Well, I think the first thing I think about is just being in a leadership position. There's no decision that you make that's not going to get second guessed and taken apart with a fine-tooth comb by others. Just about every kind of level of decision is something that you might think is the most meaningless part of your day is going to have effects on people. So people are going to critique it and try to figure out where you're coming from. So my thinking about that is that Ace is saying that he really doesn't care what the right way and the wrong way are. That essentially there's his way of doing things, and that's the way to go. The people that work for him need to learn that his way may not seem like it fits into any category or any mold, but he has a reason for wanting it done that way, and you just have to trust what he's saying and go along with it. And it's easier said than done. Certainly, people certainly expect to have some kind of idea of where you're coming from. But yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit of a dictatorial fashion of leadership, but I can identify with it to a certain extent because there are a lot of times where we make decisions about how we want to do things and don't always have the time to go into detail with people as to why we decided what we were going to do.
Right.
So you need people to kind of, and you have to have a track record for doing the right thing too. You can't expect this undying loyalty to just occur. But yeah, there has to be a time where people just say, look, that's what the boss is saying to do, you got to do it. Whether it seems like it's right or wrong, you got to do it.
Stick with the track record part for a second, because it's important to note that in the beginning of the movie, Pacino, DeNiro is explaining why he was put in this position. Mm-hmm. And he essentially explains that as a bookie, as a handicapper, he was able to basically dictate the odds around the entire country and run the lines himself. That's how good he was at what he did. Mm-hmm. So when you take 6 of the highest powered mob bosses in the country at the time, and they say, this is our guy, he's going to make us all this money, off of an investment of $62 million. And this is back in 1973. That's what it took to get the ownership into the Tangiers for him to do this. So by the time it gets to the point where he has this conversation with Don Ward, this guy who's unqualified, his track record is already established. He's already tripled, I think, profits in the casino at that point. Right. And although I don't think you hear it in the clip, he does explain why the machine should be placed in certain places before he tells the guy, look, this is how it's going to be.
Sure.
So I think there's a part to the lesson there that says, as a principal, if you're already established, if you've already had success, obviously it's much easier to take that approach.
Right.
The flip side to that, though, is maybe it's a cautionary tale to some degree too. If you're the new guy coming in, whether you're an assistant principal or a principal, and you take the dictatorial approach, you might want to stop and think a little bit about whether or not you have the juice to be doing that. I mean, are you that sure you're doing the right thing? Can you back it up? Is there, are there veteran teachers who have done it a way that's been successful questioning you, and do they deserve more of an explanation? So, we can take it at so many different levels,
right.
I think.
And not knowing, obviously, the casino business, and not knowing how urgent of a decision that was, but it seems like the way it comes across in the movie is that it was a pretty urgent thing, that he needed, that they were losing money and not getting enough out of those machines, that was pretty, something that needed to be taken care of right away. And that would be, from my perspective at least, the only time that you use that do what I say kind of attitude. Because sometimes when you're in an urgent situation and something needs to get done, right away, I mean, obviously with safety things and things like that, that makes sense. But even thinking now about some of the stuff we're experiencing with how we have to get this PVAAS stuff done and, things taken care of for PSSAs and booked, and boxed up and shipped away, people, we wouldn't have time to explain always why you're saying something needs to be done a certain way. You need people to just do what they're told, and then if they want to ask questions later on, ask questions later on.
Yeah, and it's extreme. That's an extremely relevant point. I think another way to look at it is look at the flip side, and we'll use the character of Don Ward for a second. This happens in education quite a bit. Now, we're fortunate in Downingtown that it doesn't, but I know for a fact you've been in places where it's been an issue, and I've seen it in other districts as well. The only reason this guy had a job is because Rothstein had to give him a job because he was politically connected,
Right.
or he knew he would never hire this guy.
Right.
He knows he's a an nincompoop.
Yeah.
We should bring that word back.
I use it all the time.
That's a great word. So here's a situation where not only is he's not dealing with someone he hired. He's not dealing with someone he's looking to further improve their leadership ability. He just wants the guy to do his job and not basically be a liability.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that that's always the way it should be when you're dealing with hires that you wouldn't necessarily have made. But there's a kernel of truth in it too. That there's certain people you can count on, and there's certain people who you don't want to even have to count on. So you take a more direct approach with them.
And again, it comes back to my whole thing about you do not treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
When you're in a leadership position, as much as people like to complain about how we aren't all treated the same, that there's favorites, that there's people that have well, first of all, everyone's got an open door. I mean, everyone should have an open door, as a principal.
Yeah.
But there's certain people that have your ear, that you spend more time with, that you gravitate toward, and that is because for whatever reason you jive with them. They get what you're trying to do, or they're on board with what you're trying to do. So that's what happens in those situations. And I think to me, when you have a guy like this Don Ward, that's obviously he's not connecting with him. He's almost kind of second guessing what Rothstein's telling him to do. And it's not a spoiler. You learn later on in the movie he's not around too long, that guy. So there's a reason why. And you alluded to at a prior district where I worked that there was very, very political nature in hiring, but the great thing about that was, at least in that district where I was before, was that we were told we have to hire them, but we don't have to keep them.
Okay.
And that if we had to bring these people on for whatever reason, because of their connection or what have you, that if the people were total, as you say, nincompoops, there were ways that we could move them out. They weren't protected. They were in the same position as any other new teacher or new professional member. Now, granted, again, if you had to pick them, some of them you wouldn't have picked, but it was good at least that we could move those people out if we had to.
Yeah, and at least it's stopping the bleeding to some degree. It's not a lifetime sentence, and that's good. If you're stuck in that position, at least there's a way out, which is positive. All right.
The thing, and I'm just thinking as we're talking about this, the thing I love about DeNiro in Casino and in The Godfather and in Goodfellas, and I think he was one of the first to really do it. Although Cagney did it to a certain extent as well. James Cagney in his movies, mobster movies, you just really root for the guy. The guy's a crook, a criminal, an unbelievable, cold-hearted. If you look at especially Vito in The Godfather, the scenes of him playing the young Vito, I'd follow that guy. I'd run through a brick wall for that guy. And yet he's a cold-hearted murderer and racketeer. And it's just, it's so great. His portrayal of mobsters, there's a likability about him, I guess. And that's on purpose, and it's glamorized, I know, and it's, it's Hollywood. But I think it really speaks to just his ability to play those characters. And
here's an aside to that, and tell me what you think on this comment. As we were researching the segment and looking back, your Goodfellas, Casino, a lot of the movies that came later for De Niro, and I think De Niro collaborated 8 different times with Martin Scorsese. And now, granted, I know that Godfather is a totally separate, Francis Ford Coppola and then the whole bit there.
Right.
However, the movies with Scorsese are the last ones where I sincerely saw De Niro being able to not be a caricature of himself.
Sure.
And you were able to feel empathy for that character and root for the character. And in Casino, I think it's the perfect example of all of this. The movie opens with him getting blown up.
Right.
So right away you're sympathetic to the guy because you watch him get, you think you watch him get blown to smithereens.
And you look at, and I immediately think, you're talking about Scorsese. You think about a movie like The Departed.
Yeah.
And Nicholson, there's not a single point in that movie that I like Nicholson.
Yep.
And he's, the equivalent. He's the mob leader. And again, I know it's written that way and you're not supposed to, but I don't know. For me, at least, I know some people like Nicholson and they like his swarminess and his sarcasm and everything. I hated. He was great in The Departed, but I hated that character that he played in The Departed. So I just think there's something special about. Obviously, I'm not going out on a limb here talking about how great Robert De Niro is.
Right.
But I just think there's something special about the way he plays those characters. It's just. I think that's why I'm drawn to this whole idea, this whole topic of, leadership lessons from mom movies. It's no coincidence that a lot of them are De Niro. Maybe I'll have to look for one from The Departed for next time. So I don't, especially since I'm Irish and Nicholson's supposed to be Irish in that movie.
Then it would be interesting to find one from The Departed, only because that's told more from the lens of the police, and you're looking.
There's a couple
into,
though. I can think of a couple.
Yeah.
All right, well, stay tuned for that. Maybe next time we'll have a scene from The Departed to use as our quote. And we'll take suggestions on Twitter.
We do, tweet us.
Tweet us out
what's our Twitter handle?
At Rockstar Principal. Just go to rockstarprinciples.com.
Yep, go to the website. That's the easiest thing.
Hashtag nincompoop.
Hashtag nincompoop. Or how about hashtag blueberry muffin when you talk about casino?
See now.
Yeah, well,
you're alluding to what we were talking about as well.
Maybe we'll hit that a couple weeks from now.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back with more of the Rockstar Principles podcast.
And now a word from our fake sponsors. But we'd really love if they were our real sponsors. Seriously, we would love it.
Commercials. We're always doing them for other people. But now, something so amazing has happened, John. We've got to talk about it ourselves.
What?
Before, we used to give you all these links. Here's how you get to the episodes. Here's how you get to our Twitter.
I've got them all written down here on my handy-dandy notebook.
Yeah, that's how you find stuff, right?
Right.
No longer.
Wait a minute. What did you do?
Now, you can go to rockstarprinciples.com.
Wait a second. It can't be that easy. Hold on. I'm at my computer.
rockstarprinciples.com.
Look at that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on the internet. Well, not really live, but we have a live website on the internet, rockstarprinciples.com. All of your needs for the fans of the Rockstar Principles right here on one website. We've got the different podcast episodes. If you want to listen to them via the website, via iTunes and Stitcher, you can do that. And in fact, Nick even put a player. What is this called? A media player, right?
Media
player. On the website.
Yeah.
And when I hit play here, it goes right. Let me go back to the beginning and see what happens.
Welcome to the Rockstar Principles podcast.
This is us
coming straight to you from
listening
to us. You're listening to us, listening to us.
It's amazing.
How does that work? Look, wait, let me hear. Let me just skip ahead.
Best platform possible.
Look at that.
Really enhance,
That's Nick talking.
Education.
You can go to a website and listen to Nick talk. And me. There's me talking.
Right.
There's both of us. Wait, I just said right. Is this confusing the heck out of you now?
It's like looking into
I'll
multiple
stop it.
mirrors.
But yeah, you can play our podcast right there off of the website. What else is on here, Nick?
Oh my God, you name it, it's on here. First of all, you've got, like you said, you can get to our podcast any format you want. You can listen to it from the main website, from iTunes, from Stitcher. You can read some of our editorials. You can look at some of the quotes we post
do editorials?
on Twitter.
I didn't know we were doing. How come you do all the editorials?
You could do an editorial.
I want to do an editorial.
Yeah.
All right. What else?
You can go back there. Yeah, I think we make it open in a new window. Isn't that cool? You can link to our Storify. When we do our PAESSP chats, you've got that there. And then from the top of the page, you can link to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, our LinkedIn profile, our Twitter page. I mean, it is all.
You can email us.
You can email us.
Drop us a line and leave a message. Our phone number's on there. There's even a little part that's about us. If you'd like to get a little bit more information about John and Nick.
Our biographies are up there.
Yes.
But most importantly,
yes,
let's reference our services page, because this is brand new. You haven't seen this yet, folks. The Rockstar Principles are now beginning to advertise our own services. What can we do for you? Pretty much anything, folks.
Well, really, I mean,
seriously.
we have speaking engagements and consulting services listed here, but, I got a snowblower. You want us to come take you out in the snow? I got kids. I can bring them over. We can rake the leaves in your front yard with the yard work.
Babysit.
Wash your car. We're available. Yeah, hit us up. You've got an idea and, within driving distance of Berks County, Pennsylvania, unless you want to pay for the airfare. I mean, you know, if you're listening from around the world, obviously the cost will include the airfare for us to come to you. For
the snowblower, too.
Well, I would think you probably have a snowblower of your own would probably be more economical. But
yeah, but you put it out there, so now we have to do it if they.
Well, I'm saying I'll come and push your snowblower to help get you out. You know, rather than pay to fly my snowblower to your house, if you have a snowblower, pay for me to fly to your house to push your snowblower.
Maybe we could have that be like an add-on service too. Like we'll come and consult for you at your school. And then
just
we'll go
for free,
snowblow.
We'll free, no matter, even if it's in August.
Yeah.
We'll bring our snowblower.
Fantastic. But hey, if you like what we do, we're available for speaking engagements, consulting services, and we're going to be doing a lot of presenting coming up this summer and all through the next year or so.
One engagement we already have, Dr. Nick.
Yeah, we're lined up this July in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right, for the NAESP conference, the annual National Association of Elementary School Principals Conference. The Rockstar Principals will be speaking in Nashville at that conference. Something to look forward to if you happen to be going that way.
So we're just going to rock the world. We are awesome. I mean...
You, my friend, are the awesome one for setting this incredible website up.
And what is that website? Rockstarprincipals.com. But guess what? If you have a mobile device or an iPad and you don't like to try to look at the entire site, which you can at rockstarprincipals.com, then you can go to our mobile site at m.rockstarprincipals.com, and you can look at our mobile site. We're just rocking the world, because that's what we do, we're rock stars.
I'm looking at our YouTube channel.
Yeah, isn't that pretty cool?
There's a video on there that we made that has 68,000 views.
Yeah, I'd like to see that video keep pulling more views as time goes on.
Well, if the snow keeps up, maybe we
That's
can. Maybe people will come back to it again once the snow starts hitting again.
Yeah,
you never know.
I think we've
pretty cool website, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. Anything else we want to say for the
rockstarprincipals.com. Rockstarprincipals.com.
Eat, sleep, rock, repeat.
Our next segment, we're gonna talk a little bit about PVAAS and the new teacher evaluation system that's tied to PVAAS.
What's PVAAS stand for, Dr. Nick, for all of our friends outside of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
I don't even know. Something value-added.
Pennsylvania Value-Added Assessment System.
So the value-added assessment system. Now, I probably should have looked that up because we want to give you a little bit of background for those of you who are listening from other states. But essentially, here's the long and the short of it. PVAAS tracks students first and their PSSA, their state testing data. And once they have 3 data points, they draw a trend line of how the student is performing. And an expectation is drawn for how the student will continue to perform. Well, now in Pennsylvania, much like in New York and about 7 or 8 other states, we're going to attach PVAAS verification, basically validation to teachers as well. So when a teacher has had a student over the course of the school year, maybe even multiple school years, we're going to draw trend lines for that kid, and a portion of that student's performance will be tied back to the teacher once there are 3 data points.
And eventually the principal.
So this is the first year this system is going into place. This will be the first data point for teachers, which means the system has to be in place for 3 years until teachers actually get real data back. And it will actually be assessed to their as 33% of the supervision model. Until that time, that 33% will be built on the entire building score, the overall SPP, school performance profile, for the building. Now, John and I toot our own horns there, a little high five. Both middle schools in Downingtown above the 90 score for school performance profile, so the Governor's Award of Excellence.
Academic excellence.
Yes. Yeah, we already know we're excellent in other ways.
Proud and pleased to be presented those awards by Acting Secretary of Education, Dr. Carolyn Dumaresque, who also is hopefully she's a recent follower of us on Twitter. She was very interested in what we had to talk about what we're doing on here. So,
and maybe she'll start listening to the podcast.
With that in mind, as we talk about PVAAS, keep in mind that there's a possibility that the Acting Secretary of Education is listening to what we say and could, with a touch of her finger, end our careers. Maybe we don't want to do this segment.
We'll rewind entirely. Another interesting fact is we met Dr. Dumaresk at the presentation ceremony, which was really cool. Turns out she's an Upper Merion graduate, and which is where I had graduated from and grew up, and it's just a very small world when you think about the different...
It is a small world, but as Stephen Wright said, I wouldn't want to paint it.
I wouldn't want to paint anything in my house, much less the world. So we just finished a week of verifying rosters, and essentially there's a very it's a very easy UI, a user interface, that the state of Pennsylvania has used the DRC and a company to create this interface to make sure everything works in the system, and school districts are able to upload using the PIM system, which is the overall state student management system, to get the information right, because you have to attach not only the amount of instructional responsibility the teacher has the kid for, but the time enrolled in the course together. And there's about 100,000 variables we've learned that really make that difficult to do. However, during the course of this process, a thought came to me. Now, purposely, I didn't tell John what scenario I was going to present, because I want his natural, genuine reaction to it. And let me paint the picture very simply for you. Let's say that, as the example, in our schools in 7th grade, we've split language arts across 2 periods with 2 different teachers. Part of it is literature, and part of it is writing. What that means is, instead of one teacher being 100% responsible for that student, the 2 teachers each get 50% responsibility to share for the reading PSSA score. Okay? Seems fair, seems totally normal. Now here's what came to me, and this is the question that I have. Let's say that a student has multiple supports in place. Let's say there's 4 different teachers providing instruction for the area for that kid. And it gets broken down 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. I love the data. I love things that are quantitative. It seems perfectly reasonable and makes rational sense to me. But then I thought, what if one of those teachers was the teacher that made the connection with the kid? That kid couldn't read, couldn't grasp, couldn't decode, whatever it was before that, but they finally got with the right teacher who connected with them. So that one teacher, although they're only 25% responsible according to the system, and that's how that teacher is going to be judged, that teacher really made a much bigger impact on that kid. I can't quantify it. That teacher can't quantify it. You can't really put a number to it, but we know that if it wasn't for that teacher, this kid wouldn't have made that type of progress. Let's say one of those other 4 teachers is one of your jerkiest teachers there is, and didn't like the kid and did everything he could to bring that kid down. He gets 25% credit for the success of that student, when he might have been actually going in the other direction for that student. So I guess the question is, it all makes sense. It's all going to be applied equally and fairly across the state. But is it actually the best way to measure? Is there a way to measure? Can you quantify what we're trying to quantify? And there's the question.
Oh, you're asking me?
That's the...
I'm sorry. I don't know if it was a rhetorical question.
No, it is rhetorical.
Can you repeat it again? I'm sorry. I wasn't really paying attention. I don't know what to say there, Dr. Nick. I would say that the goal of the current administration in Pennsylvania right now is to be able to provide parents with some sort of feedback on the job, not just parents, but taxpayers, with feedback on the job performance of teachers.
It's accountability.
And trying to... And accountability gets a bad rap. I've said, going back to my days even in my prior school district, that I'm all for accountability. I think accountability does motivate people. I think when people know that there's going to be an accountability component to what you do, there is a certain motivation behind it. But I think if the goal of the administration is to be able to say to taxpayers that the teacher evaluation is no longer just going to be one person's subjective view of what is taking place in the classroom, then they need to start somewhere. Agreed? There needs to be something where
Correct.
they need to begin. And mind you, I'm not saying I support or disapprove one way or the other. I'm just trying to restate my understanding of their position. So if they're going to, if you are going to hold teachers accountable for the reading performance, using your example of students, then there needs to be some way to do it. There needs to be some way to do it in a fair process. And I can't think of how else, using your example, that they would. I'm assuming you have a better way? You have an answer? You have an idea?
I'm posing the question.
I'm thinking as I'm answering, and I really don't know. I mean, I guess I go back to what I've said to my staff a number of times, and what the great Dan Horan, principal of Haverford Middle School, said to me when I first started talking to him about all this PVAAS stuff. And that is, you're looking at a small percent of a small percent. That one student, you know, most of our teachers are working with 120, 130 kids.
Yep.
So that one student isn't really going to skew the results very heavily one direction or the other. And that even if they did, you're still only looking at 15% of their overall evaluation, right? So to me, that's the flaw with this whole concept. If the concept is, the motivation behind it is, we're going to start holding teachers accountable, and I'm doing air quotes, for student progress, then having it be 15% of their overall rating really isn't doing that much, in my opinion.
It's not.
It's not.
And
when you look at all of the other things that can affect their rating.
Right.
That's and using your example, you know, they're getting a percentage, the overall school's SPP, right? What's that, 30? Oh, it's 3 o'clock.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, right now it's 33.
Right, because they haven't identified
what
the local ones are going to be.
But I think eventually it's 15 and 15.
It's the same example. Somebody who's, you know, I mean, we've
Oh,
got, you know, we're at over 90. Our SPPs are both over 90. And I'd be the first one to admit that, you know, not every teacher on our school is doing an outstanding job. Most of them are. The vast majority of them are. But there's a few people that aren't. And those people are going to get the same number attached to their evaluation as the people that are knocking it out of the park.
That's extremely true. Okay, so and let's, because you had told me we had talked about the Dan Horan example a little while back. So take that out even further now, because you shortened it. But if you extend it out, let's just use 100 as an even number, because it's easier to do the percentages of 100. Let's say that a teacher has 100 kids on her caseload.
Right.
That kid is 1/100th, which is 1%. Then you have to say, okay, well, that kid is not 1%. It's actually only 15% of the overall score, so it's 0.15 times. I mean, you are
1% of 15%.
Exactly, which is an immensely small number.
Right.
Now, part of that though is purposeful. The state, I mean, part of the state's plan was to say we recognize we have to work the kinks out and figure out how this works. So we don't want to make this too overwhelming of a category, a beginning. But it still remains, and you made the point earlier that aside from this, what's the better way? Because the previous way was completely subjective.
And I'll tell you what, the only better way to do it is to have every single subject that we teach tested.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So that there are some criteria for a physical education teacher and a family consumer science teacher and a technology education teacher, that they all have some kind of assessment. And trust me, I am not advocating more testing. I'm just saying the only way for this to be fair is for teachers to be accountable for every kid in their subject area.
Well, and here it even goes a little deeper than that, in that we, as a district, and we started off, just as individual schools, but we use a building-wide writing strategy. And all the kids are taught the same writing strategy, and it's taught across all subjects. So, and that's a writing method. So if the art teacher is teaching the racist strategy, if that's the particular strategy, shouldn't they get some credit for writing? Sure. I mean, it's
But not as much.
But not as much.
Because they're not doing it all the time, every day. It's not involved in,
I think
to nearly the extent that it is if you're an actual writing teacher.
Correct. Ben, I think the problem with what we're talking about is, and this is what you're leading towards to a degree, is unless you can create a system that can track all of that, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how do you do. I don't even know how you figure all that out.
No, I don't know either. As I've thought several times over this past week when we've been working endless hours on trying to get this thing completed. We would not have had this problem if we were principals 10 years ago.
I'm like, no.
I mean, I was a principal 10 years ago. This was not possible. The amount of not only data collection, but also verification and assigning to specific, it's the technology.
Yep.
Unfortunately for us, the technology is great, but it's not great enough. It's not great enough for us to be doing this, in my opinion. Because
right.
How else can you explain, I have 1,600 kids in my school, and I had 1,200 kids whose rosters were either overclaimed or underclaimed.
And
I had 1,200 cases of kids that were overclaimed or underclaimed in my system. So if we did have the technology to be able to do this correctly, it certainly wouldn't have been a case where more than 3/4 of my students were improperly cleaned. I know 3/4 were improperly cleaned.
And that's where our numbers were proportionately the same because we're smaller.
Yeah.
And out of the 100% of over and underclaimed students, let's assume, and this is probably an accurate number, 50% of those were quick fixes. The problem is a quick fix for 500 or 600 students isn't quick. And this is a principal verification job, this
Right.
first week window. So we
Right.
had to do it. Our secretaries couldn't do it. It had to be us.
Right.
Then the 500 that were left were the very complicated cases. And here's the interesting part to that. Even if which we did to a degree, we worked out what the percentages for most of the unusual situations would be. But the amount of more than unusual situations,
Right.
I was baffled. I couldn't believe how many there were.
Here's the only, again, if Dr. Dumaresque is listening, and you agreed with me on this when I said it to you during the week, that this was feedback that we would give. The really only legitimate gripe, I mean, once you get past the whole concept, and we're middle management, and things are given to us to do, and we have to do them, and that's just the nature of the job. This is the business we've chosen, going back to an earlier Mafia quote. The only, I think, legitimate gripe that we had with the state was the way the website worked. In kind of trying to reflecting some of the, maybe there's a little bit of a Obamacare website that is trickling over into the state's PVAAS website, but the website was not user friendly. So an example, you take an overclaimed student. We had kids who had essentially, if you're not in Pennsylvania, a kid's supposed to have a 100% teachers attributed to them, right? And if more than 100%, if there were more than is supposed to be teachers that were claiming that kid, then they were called overclaimed. So the kid's name will come up, and you click on their name, and it shows you that this kid is overclaimed because this teacher is saying they get 100% of the kid's score, and this teacher is saying they get 100% of the kid's score. So the kid wound up having 200%, right? If the website was user-friendly, you could just click right on those numbers, you would think, and be able to change those numbers to both 50%, and then you'd have it at 100% and you'd be done. But no. You have to click on the teacher's name, then go into the teacher's profile, find that same kid's name that you were just talking about, scroll down, find that kid's name, click on the number there, change it to 50 there,
Save it.
click save, and then go back to where, because he's still overclaimed. Now he's at 150%, right? It was 2 teachers at 100. Yep. Now he's at 100. So now you're going to go all the way back to the start, click on the kid's name again, then you would see one teacher listed as 50, the other teacher is 100. Click on that other teacher's name, go through the same process, change it to 50, click save, and then it's finished. And you might think, wow, that's not a big idea. Think about having to do that for 1,200 kids. If it takes, each time you do that, it takes what, 90 seconds maybe?
Yep.
That process, 60 to 90 seconds, you got to do that 1,200 times.
And don't forget the law of diminishing returns. By the 400th time or by the 8th hour you're working on this, your brain can't process those clicks anymore.
I was like that on like hour 2. So you're being generous by saying 8th hour. Well, I didn't last that long before I started getting fried.
And then looking into when you're talking the complications of the system, now there's FAQs and everything else, but none of it truly prepares you for until you sit down and you do it.
Here's another example of a difficult one. Let's use reading because it's the easiest.
Mm-hmm.
No, let's use math because it's even more complicated. Just for to make it. So a kid has a math support course, and we have a 6-day cycle. So they see their regular math teacher 6 times a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then they see the math support teacher maybe 2, maybe 4 times a cycle. So you would think it would be easy to figure out. The kid gets 8 total periods of math.
Right.
So 6 out of 8 is 2/3 is the percentage, and 2 out of 8 is a fourth, and there's 25%. Seems like that should be pretty simple, right? Well, for some cases it was, but for other cases, a kid moved in October.
Yeah.
Well, that's not 100% anymore. Or a kid moved out in February. Or a kid switched teachers. Or a kid went from the lower level of support 2 times per cycle to 4 times per cycle in November.
Yeah.
So you basically, you had to count up all the days of instruction prior to the start of PSSA math and have ratios and percentages for all of those time frames, and then do the calculations for 3, 4, 5, 6 different teachers, and then do calculations on top of that based on the time. And then enter it into the system the same way you just described with the not friendly interface. So, and here's the thing: I don't think technology exists, like you were saying. The technology's not that good. I don't think the calculations part that we're talking about. I don't think there's a program or a spreadsheet that can do.
No,
that.
I don't either. So, and by the way, 6 out of 8 is 3/4, not 2/3.
Correct.
To come back to my initial point about the goal of the administration. This, once again, makes my point and my belief about politics in education just simply don't mix, especially on a state level, let alone a national level. I'm a strong proponent of local control of schools and local control of education. And I think if you had a local school district, let's say, that decided they wanted to do this because they wanted to provide feedback to their taxpayers, then they could create a system based on their student management system, right? Which is, we know, is different from district to district.
Right.
And that's what led to some of our problems. Our district student management system wasn't able to interface with this state website. The two did not interface properly, and that's why we had so many overclaimed and underclaimed kids. At least that's what we're told. So if, in my utopia of locally controlled schools, a school district decided that they wanted to be able to do this, they could, and it would be much more efficient and much more effective because they could create something based on what they know their student management system is. They may even be able to have something right within their student management system that as soon as that kid that you're talking about is switched from one class to another class, right away something happens that changes that kid's total. You know what I mean? So in that, I think there is the technology to do it. If the state and the feds, and I know this is a result of the feds, really.
Yeah.
This is a result of the race to the top money that the Obama administration, is giving to districts, that they had to show some kind of, in order to get that money, they had to show some kind of accountability part in teacher evaluation. So,
but even
I don't know what the point I'm trying to make again is. It's just, it's very, very frustrating dealing with
the point you were starting to make
such a large scale thing, a bureaucratic monster. That is good for some things, but to me, it's just getting in the way of something like this.
Then tell me where we missed the boat, because I think you're right. And at the time, you would have been in Upper Darby, and I think, I was in Downingtown, because I want to say it was 2007 or 2008, when the Keystone, not to forget the Keystones, when the federal push came through and basically said this is going to be the new model of accountability. Okay, we're not reauthorizing at this point. And then the state of Pennsylvania said we can do this one of two ways. Either we develop the plan, or you can develop the plan. Local districts back then had the option.
It was 2009 because I was actually on briefly. I was on the state committee for designing for creating the criteria for local districts to design. There was a state committee that I was asked to be a part of that were creating criteria that they were going to give the school districts
if they wanted
to create their own. It had to meet this criteria, and that just fell by the wayside and disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. at that time, though, and it was around for at least a year or a year and a half prior to the Keystones being introduced.
Yeah.
Because I remember being in Downingtown and being a part of the larger conversation of, what do we do? Do we wait for the state,
Right.
and we don't know what the state's going to do, or do we jump on this on our own? And there was a prevailing feeling that we didn't have the resources or the manpower to do it ourselves.
Right.
However, looking back at that, we might have been better off as a district saying, this is the better way for us here in Downingtown.
But I don't know if that option's still on the table.
No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
that's long gone.
Right.
But it would. Here's the thing. Let's say back whenever it came off the table, let's say 400 out of the 500 districts in Pennsylvania wanted to do their own. I bet you that option would have stayed on the table.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's interesting. You know, you don't know what you're going to face.
Yep. Well, there's nothing I enjoy more than spending my weekend talking about the single most frustrating thing that I encountered all week. So I appreciate you bringing this up as a topic, because now I'm totally depressed.
Hey, you should. I only wish you had joined us for a beverage after work on Friday.
Yeah.
To celebrate the
I had
end
a soccer game. I had a soccer game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Was it Ellie? Ellie's
Yeah.
soccer game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That you wanted to... Wait, was that the rain out game? You were hoping you...
No, that was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I would never wish that.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, that's it for that.
Well, I hope you stuck with us through that conversation, and now we feel completely depressed, and Nick's going to go pour us each a glass of wine, I think.
I finished my first glass. I'm going to move on to the second glass now. And we will return.
Oh, this is where the evil horde hides out.
The Fright Zone! You put it together, Fright Zone, He-Man, Hordak, and Man-at-Arms figures each sold separately.
So nice of you to stop in for lunch.
The Fright Zone! The Fright Zone! The Fright Zone!
Your overgrown lizard doesn't scare me for that. Oh, no!
The Fright Zone! The Fright Zone playset, you from the Evil Horde and Masters of the Universe collection. Action figures each sold separately from Mattel.
Welcome back to the Rockstar Principles Podcast. Our segment now is going to be talking a little bit about an online article that I found earlier this week, and actually forwarded to Nick and to Tom Mulvey, the principal of our new 6th grade center opening next year. Yes, our 6th grade
what is a
center.
narwhal?
Our 6th grade center mascot is the narwhal. If you're not sure what that is, think about the movie Elf.
Oh, my God.
And when he was leaving the North Pole and he encountered a narwhal, it's a whale with a horn. Yeah, that's the mascot of our 6th grade center. And I for one think it's pretty awesome. I initially was rolling my eyes at it, but I've actually become jealous of it because I just the originality of the whole concept. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but
let's not go on. Let's not digress. Come on, stay focused.
I'm trying. Hey,
so
while you're introducing this, want me to get you a drink?
No, that's okay.
You want another bottle of water?
No, thanks. I'm fine.
You sure?
Yeah. Can we stay on focus?
I'm going to go get my own drink.
No, okay.
You introduce
All right. All right. I'm going to be alone in the room here talking. So anyway, our 6th grade center next year is opening. We've alluded to this before. Right now, we're 6, 7, 8 buildings. Both Nick and I run schools of 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And our district is opening a 6th grade center. And the 6th grade center is going to be going on a one-to-one initiative with iPads. Every kid in the school is going to be issued an iPad. And I found this article from one of our favorite websites, KQED. It's blogs.kqed.org is their website. And the article was titled, What Students Think About Using iPads in School. So I thought this was pretty relevant and interesting, just thinking about, because I know there's various mindsets out there about iPads. I know districts that have used, some districts that have gone to using laptops and issuing laptops have met with various results from that. So reading this article and actually listening to this article, because the internet also has an audio component, which you may not know. It does. Wow. It does, interestingly enough.
The interwebs can have music.
They interviewed some kids at this school in California, I think it was. Yeah, Hillview Middle School in California, where they've gone to a one-to-one iPad initiative and asked some of the kids, just kind of their thoughts are, because it's in the 3rd year that they've been rolling this program out, and trying to get some feedback from the kids. And from what they shared, it seems as though the overwhelming majority of kids have a positive response to it. And this is where I immediately get my back up a little bit, because I know for some people that's not necessarily a good thing. And, just because kids like it doesn't mean we should be doing it. And believe it or not, there's people that think that. And I'm blown away by that concept. Most of the kids that were interviewed in this, their positive responses centered around it makes doing research and writing papers and all of the things that we're asking kids to do. It makes it easier for them to do that. And my response to that is that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be doing everything we can to make things easier for kids to accomplish these tasks. It's, in my opinion, again, asinine to say that kids should be looking things up in an encyclopedia because they need to learn how to use encyclopedias. Excuse me, bullshit. Like that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Why we've gotten rid of encyclopedias in our library because it's a waste. It's a waste of space. We could be using that space much more productively.
Hashtag encyclopedias are dead.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that to have rows and rows and rows of encyclopedias. Maybe you have 1 or 2 editions of them just in case somebody wants to. But the thing about encyclopedias, if go off on a rant here, is that the moment they're printed, they're obsolete. Because the information in them changes. It's not. I'm not talking about getting rid of books in a library. Certainly, great, works of classic literature and nonfiction too, especially biographies and things like that are great for kids to have. But encyclopedias where you're looking up information, I can remember as a kid using encyclopedias and looking things up and thinking to myself, I don't think this is true anymore. And then looking at the date on the encyclopedia and seeing it was from like 5 or 6 years ago.
Wait, the sun doesn't revolve around
the
the
Earth?
Earth?
Yeah.
Wait, go back 1 second, real quick. You said maybe 1 or 2 sets in case. In case of what?
Well, just to set. I know.
The zombie apocalypse,
just to
and there's no more
satisfy
internet?
the old school mentality, the people that hold on to those things. I'm willing to. I'm not entirely uncaring. I'm going to throw all of them out except for 1 set. Let's say, Nick. Yeah. So anyway, getting back, I digress significantly.
No, but in all seriousness, though, just on that for just a second.
Yeah.
When you talk about you don't want to get rid of books, and I think there's some validity to that. However, if you're a school like Hillview that does go to 1-to-1 iPad initiative,
Right.
Kindle editions and digital editions of books are much, much cheaper. Isn't there a way to go totally digital where the students could have access to the titles? I mean, I don't know.
There is. No, and that's actually what one of the kids said that was interviewed in this article. One of the kids said, our teachers issue us a textbook, but it's great to be able to have a digital textbook as well because I can highlight things and take notes on things. I can't do that with my textbook.
Right.
In the digital textbook, it makes it easier for me to do these things, right? Yeah. And again, I'll say it one more time. It's important that we make things easier because the world is becoming easier in that aspect. The days of needing to know how to do some of these things like look things up in an encyclopedia. Or who looks things up in microfilm anymore? Remember when we were in college and you had to go to the microfiche to look things up? If you were at that mindset of, we should be making things easier, then we should still be doing that. If we want to research things, we should be sitting down with those giant microfiche and scrolling through. Remember those things? And you had to zip real fast and you always went too fast and you had to go back. My God, that wasn't that long ago. It seems like, I guess, although really it was 20 years ago for me.
20 years now,
yeah. And it seems like that's the Stone Ages. But again, anyway.
It's that mentality. We still are living by a mentality
it baffles me. It baffles me that people hold on to this idea of we're making things too easy for kids and the world's not that easy. Yeah, it is. I can pick up this little phone here and in a matter of seconds find out what I want to know. Mm-hmm. That's the way the world is now. So I don't understand people holding on to this idea that the world doesn't operate and the world's tougher than that. No, it's not. No, it's not. The world, actually, the truth of the matter is America might not be like that, but the rest of the world is.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is doing things like this. And this is where we're getting our butts kicked because we're holding on to, wanting to use the hand crank to start our Model T rather than using these newfangled keys that we can use to start the car.
And you'll get some teachers who will still try to fall back and rely on research that is maybe 20 years old. And here's an example of a good argument for old school that still has, I think, new school qualifications. Memorization.
Oh.
There's a lot of research that shows that neural pathway development,
right,
ease of recall of information that is relevant,
right,
there are benefits to memorizing. Okay, so let's say you're a social studies teacher and you've determined that this is before the internet now. There's 10 critical documents in U.S. history you should memorize.
Mm-hmm.
Now, fast forward 15, 20 years, okay? Now we know that you have that at your fingertip. It's at my phone, it's in my iPad, it's in whatever. You can't use the argument that the memorization is useful for all 10 of those items anymore. If you want to still have the kids memorize maybe 1, 2, or 3
mm-hmm.
for the research-proven benefits of memorizing,
right,
then I'm cool with that. Because
right,
you're not really doing it for the sake of memorizing. Or you can make such a strong rationalization that kids should know the preamble to the Constitution.
Sure. Yeah.
What give me something really strong and prove it to me that way. Otherwise, use that time to do critical thinking, deep analysis of
right,
the text,
right,
the documents,
yeah,
historical comparisons. Use the technology to let you do the other things that are higher
right
up on Bloom's taxonomy. You're deeper into the depths of knowledge.
It's again, we're going off on a tangent, but this is like this is where I tie my goat, to use an expression that I use all the time. This is how you get my goat as a teacher, is starting to have kids memorize things that are completely useless and nonsensical. And thank God I see very little of any of it in my school. I see some of it in my kids' school. But memorizing, we could even talk about vocabulary. And again, vocabulary has its place.
Yep.
It has its, it is appropriate. I'm not saying get rid of all vocabulary, but having kids every week look up 50 vocabulary words and write definitions and use them in a sentence, I don't know. I just
those days are gone.
Oh really?
No. Those days should.
Oh, okay. yeah. So anyway,
at least the weekly application.
Getting back to this article here, and again, it's called "What Students Think About Using iPads in School." Not surprisingly, kids like it. Most of the kids that responded like it. They like it because they feel as though it helps them perform better. And again, that's who we should be playing to, because there will be kids who use them inappropriately.
Yeah,
I agree. There will be kids that won't take good care of their iPad, or there will be kids that use them to play games or download inappropriate things. But I come back to it over and over and over again when people bring this up to me. We'll deal with those cases if and when they happen. But that's a very small minority of students. We should be thinking about how something like this is going to help the kids that use it appropriately. We should be thinking about how this is going to make life better for our great kids, our awesome kids, and even our kids that are struggling. How this is, think about how much something like an iPad is going to benefit a kid who's struggling academically and may have a difficult time with editing and researching and things like that. How much better of a job that kid can do on their research paper if they have that device that can help them do that research. So we're helping everyone here. It's not an excuse to not do it, should not be, well, there's going to be kids that are going to use it for inappropriate stuff. Because that's just, again, that doesn't hold water with me.
And, okay, so now the one other part to this conversation is, it's the problem is the administration and the teachers' insecurity and uncomfortableness with the new technology.
Right.
And you look at the businesses that are blowing up and doing really well with the use and utilization of technology.
Yeah.
It's a different world that way.
It is.
And here's a great example. And I'm gonna, you know what? Instead of hammering on teachers about this, I'll hammer on administration.
Go ahead.
On us.
Yeah.
We meet monthly. We have a K-12 principals meeting. We have a curriculum meeting every month. Our district is 80 square miles, 16 schools now, and principals have to come from all over to the central office.
Say that again. How big is our district?
80 square miles.
16 schools.
16 schools.
80 square miles.
80 square miles.
Yeah.
We meet at central office, which isn't central.
Right,
It's not centrally
right.
located.
It's central for you.
Yeah, it's down the street for me. I can
Yeah.
walk there if I wanted to. However, we still have these meetings in person. Now, because of the PVAAS roster verification this past week, we held the curriculum meeting via a link meeting.
Online.
Online,
We did an online
basically.
meeting.
Yeah, forget the
Yeah.
platform. That doesn't matter. And guess what? I stayed in my school.
Yep.
I was accessible if I was needed.
Exactly.
I had my other principal sitting in the office with me with the computers logged on. I was able to watch the PowerPoint on the screen the same way that I would have being there live at the meeting,
Right.
and I was able to contribute the same way.
God forbid.
I mean, our lives, but why are we still meeting
I don't
face
know.
to face
I
for
don't know.
those types of meetings?
don't know.
It's because that's the way we've always done.
Right.
That's we're comfortable that way.
Yep.
It's just the way things were. But that's not the way things are anymore. These big companies, they're not flying their people out to Japan overnight anymore for
Nope.
day-to-day meetings.
Right.
They're doing it online. Now when you're trying to close a deal, a different story. There's
And
there's a time
everything.
and a place.
That's what I was just about to say. Everything we're saying here, we're speaking in generalities.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an argument to the point that people make that we need to teach kids people skills and they need to learn how to interact? Absolutely. But that's not a reason not to do this.
Right.
Well, one of the big detractors of our BYOD thing this year that I started at my school, our school-wide thing, was that people said kids are going to not know how to interact with one another, and that when you go in the cafeteria, every kid's going to be on a device, and a cafeteria is supposed to be a socialization time. And again, bullshit. You go into my cafeteria now, and there's kids on devices, yeah, but they're still talking to one another.
Yeah.
And they're still interacting with each other. They're actually able to text their friends on the other side of the cafeteria rather than get up and go over and talk to them. So we've noticed fewer kids wandering around to have conversations at other tables. They're actually it helps them with making friends because they'll see somebody playing a game that they also play.
Yep.
Like this Clash of Clans game is big right now with the boys. All the boys have Clash of Clans. And you go through our cafeteria and they've all got a clan that they're playing against one another on this game. And I have literally seen, I would put my hand on a stack of Bibles, kids bridging friendships, creating friendships because a kid walks by a table and sees another kid playing and says, "Oh, what's your clan name? I want to, you want to join up in my clan," or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's there's a good argument to the point that we need to teach kids about interpersonal skills. Yes, but that's not enough of a reason to not do this kind of stuff.
And it's not acceptable. And part of this is
It's a cop-out.
It's a cop-out.
Yeah.
And it's on us now too, because here's an actual write-up I got this year. An actual write-up. A kid in the cafeteria was reading a book on a Kindle, and they got written up for inappropriate use of technology.
Yeah.
Reading.
I told you the story. This
on a
is
Kindle.
this is why I did BYOD this year. Because last year I was in the cafeteria and I had a teacher confiscate.
That's right. They took
confiscated
one. They
a
took
Kindle
it. They
off
took
of
it.
this little kid that was just she was reading a book. When I pulled the kid aside, I said, "What were you doing with it?" And she said, "I was reading a book." And I said, "Show me what book you were reading." And she brought it up, and it was like it was one of the like The Fault in Our Stars, or something similar to that. It wasn't that book, but something similar to that. Totally appropriate piece of literature that this child was reading, and yet this teacher wanted. And again, technically, under the terms of our technology situation last school year, was the kid violating the use? You're not supposed to be using it. Yeah, but when you look over a kid's shoulder and see what they're doing with it,
Right.
God, how can you take that away? That was where I said that was my catharsis, my seminal moment, my motivation to say, gosh darn it, next year we're doing BYOD, and any kid that wants to be using their Kindle to read works of Shakespeare in my cafeteria, they're going to be able to do it. And if they want to play Clash of Clans, they can do that.
Play Clash of Clans too, or watch pirated versions of Captain America.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
do that. Although if you have one, let me know, because I really want to see it. I haven't gotten to the theory yet. The only other funny way to address that would have been to send that teacher back into the caf and have her confiscate every book in the cafeteria.
Right.
Any student with a book, I want you to confiscate it.
Right. Well, again, we'll go off on a tangent, but this is the same.
Yeah.
argument I've had with people that are, some of my people that are saying our kids are texting while they're walking down the hallway and it's creating an unsafe situation. Yes, but I also have kids reading books while they're walking down the hallway. Correct. That are bumping into one another. I also have kids that are having conversations, as middle school kids are prone to do, where they're looking at each other and talking and not looking where they're going. So I should start disciplining all of those kids equally then, right? The kid texting while they're walking down the hall, the kid reading a book while walking down the hall, and the kid actually having the nerve to have a conversation while they're walking down the hall and not looking where they're going and bumping into somebody. All of those kids should be disciplined.
And the same as the actual less than 1% of the population who are running through the halls like idiots and knock someone over. Right. Same punishment.
Right. Oh, yeah, all the same. This has gone quickly from a let's talk about an article to a bitch session.
Oh my God! If we wanted to talk bitch sessions, oh my God, we could. Yeah, we're not doing that. But yeah. This is also staffing time for us, and with the 6th grade center opening, there's a lot of movement happening, and some of it's forced. And you really get a feel for people that you didn't know before with some of this stuff.
Well, bringing it back to the article, as I said, our 6th grade center, all the kids are going to have iPads. We're looking forward to the following year when those kids move from 6th grade to 7th grade in our buildings, coming to us with this technology. That's kind of the reason why we started this BYOD stuff this year as well, is to start to get our teachers ready for kids having these devices. So, we need to get used to it. We need to find a way to adapt. Need to find a way to use them in the classroom. And I, for one, am looking forward to it and am proud to work in a district that is moving in this direction. So go Downingtown.
Holla! Go Narwhals. Was that this segment or was that the last segment?
That was this segment. Hashtag nincompoop.
That's right. Hashtag Narwhals. We'll be back or we won't.
Later.
Thanks for helping RSP top the charts in the Edu podcast world. Keep it real with Twisted Steel and School Appeal.